All right, let's get into it. Today, we're looking up, way up, to talk about a piece of tech that completely changed our world from orbit: satellite television. It's a wild story about connection, conflict, and how a simple piece of metal reshaped how we see, well, everything.
I mean, look at it. It's just a metal dish, right? Something you bolt to the side of a house. But that simple dish, it became a gateway to other cultures, a weapon in information wars, and a classroom for millions, all at the same time. So how on earth did this thing become one of the most powerful communication tools ever invented?
Before it got complicated, the idea behind satellite TV was actually incredibly pure. It was all about connection. The promise was simple, but honestly profound: to beam a signal down from space that could reach anywhere, instantly crossing oceans and continents. And just think about what that meant. If you were an immigrant, suddenly you had this direct cultural lifeline. You could watch the news from back home in your own language. For people with niche interests, I'm talking everything from yachting to collecting antiques. It created whole communities where mainstream TV would have just ignored them. But maybe most importantly, for people in really remote areas, it could beam in a world-class education, no roads or cables required. And this wasn't just a hypothetical. This really happened. As early as 1974, India teamed up with NASA to broadcast educational shows to thousands of rural villages. Years later, China did something similar, launching its own education satellite, creating what they called a classroom in the sky to train students and teachers across its massive countryside. So, what was the secret sauce that made this explosion of channels even possible? It was a huge leap in technology, the switch from analog to digital. All of a sudden, the same little slice of bandwidth in space that used to carry just one channel could now carry 10. For broadcasters, that meant costs just fell through the floor, and that's what opened the floodgates for all those niche channels we were just talking about. But of course, any tool that powerful is a double-edged sword. A tool that can connect people can also be used to control them. So this amazing technology didn't just build bridges. It kicked off a global fight for control over the information that was literally raining down from the sky. And the fight really boils down to this. On one side, you've got commercial hurdles, things like encryption for pay TV or copyright laws. But on the other side, well, that's the iron fist of state control. We're talking about intentional signal jamming, outright bans on even owning a dish, and of course, a constant fire hose of state-run propaganda. For a lot of governments, an uncontrolled satellite dish is a direct threat to their power, and you see this pattern all over the world. In China, owning a dish is officially banned, which forces people to get creative with hidden antennas. In Iran, the state is even more aggressive. They actively jam the signals from foreign broadcasters like the BBC. In Cuba, it's so heavily restricted that it's created this whole underground culture of hiding dishes on rooftops away from prying eyes. And sometimes the control is a little more subtle. In Myanmar, owning a dish is technically legal, but they tax it so heavily that it's basically a ban in all but name. So why? Why are governments so afraid of this tech? Because they get a very simple truth about human nature. You can listen to the radio, sure, but Images have a way of hitting you on a much deeper emotional level. A picture isn't just worth 1,000 words. It can be more convincing than 1,000,000 of them, which makes it an unbelievably powerful tool for persuasion. And you see this power being used absolutely everywhere. Politically, you had Al Jazeera's satellite broadcasts, which were a huge factor in shaping the narrative of the Arab Spring. From Lebanon, you see counter-propaganda from stations like Al-Manar. Then there are the countless religious channels beaming their message globally. And let's not forget the endless commercial propaganda from all those 24/7 home shopping networks. Okay, so we've seen the impact, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But how does this whole thing actually work? How does a TV show go from a studio, up into space, and then back down to a dish on your roof? It's actually a pretty elegant 4-step dance. So let's trace the signal's path. It all starts at a massive ground station. That's the uplink, which shoots the broadcast into space. Up there, a satellite's little transponder catches the signal, gives it a power boost, changes its frequency, and then just showers it back down over a huge chunk of the Earth. That's the downlink. And finally, your little dish catches that incredibly faint signal, and a box inside your house decodes it for your TV. It's a 70,000-kilometer round trip that happens in the blink of an eye. But the real trick, the secret that makes this whole thing work with a fixed dish, is something called a geosynchronous orbit. See, at this one very specific altitude, 35,786 kilometers up, a satellite's speed perfectly matches the spin of the Earth. So from down here, it looks like it's just hanging there, totally motionless in the sky. Like a permanent man-made star that your dish can stay locked onto forever. Pretty amazing, right? And the crazy part is how fast this all happened. The math for this magic orbit was figured out way back in 1928. Then just 35 years later, after Sputnik kicked off the space race, the US put the first satellite, SYNCOM-2, right into that orbit. And by 1988, you had commercial satellites like Astra 1A launching, which really ignited the satellite TV boom we know today. So when you step back and look at this whole journey through the tech and the politics, what's the big takeaway? What's the lasting impact of this simple dish on our world? At the end of the day, the legacy of satellite TV is all about that duality. It is, at the exact same time, a powerful tool for freedom that lets people bypass state censors and a weapon for propaganda. It's a bridge that connects scattered cultures across the globe, and it's a classroom that brings knowledge to the most isolated corners of our planet. It's both. And that leads us to one last question. Today, with the internet and streaming pretty much everywhere, it's easy to look at this satellite dish and think it's a thing of the past. But is its power really fading? Or is it just evolving, finding new ways to beam information into a world that, believe it or not, still has a lot of disconnected places? Something to chew on. Thanks for tuning in.